Mark, we want to take a moment now to bring in Margaret Brennan, who is joining us now from Washington, D.C. So, Margaret, France has always really been a stalwart ally in terms of the fight against the Islamic State extremism. At 2 p.m. today, we know we'll be hearing from the French president. What are your expectations for what he's going to say today?
Well, France has taken a very aggressive, hawkish position on terror, not just against ISIS, but also against al-Qaeda. They've been waging really a frontal assault against al-Qaeda in North Africa over the past year. Hollande, the French president, really takes a strong line on that in terms of confronting it. This would be the second attack on a French national by ISIS, if it is confirmed to be ISIS, within the past few months. In September, if you remember, when France joined U.S. strikes and that coalition against ISIS, there was a French tourist beheaded in Algeria by a terror group that claimed to be affiliated with ISIS. And really, since that time, France has been on alert, really concerned about its subways, concerned about its public transportation, concerned about those areas where civilians would be at risk. This attack today, of course, caught many by surprise in terms of the target and the timing, but this has been expected, and we do expect Francois Hollande to speak to France's very tough position here, saying that they will hunt down these gunmen.
And Margaret, we know this situation is still unfolding. What can you tell us, if anything, about communication between U.S. officials and French officials at this point?
Well, the French and U.S. intelligence sharing has been very close. They are really one of the most stalwart allies in this fight against ISIS when it comes to sharing of information, when it comes to being ready to take military action. France is one of the very first countries to stand up there. At this point, you already have such a close cooperation there. We don't, at this point, French diplomats say, we don't expect for France to ask for investigative help. There already is a tremendous amount of intel sharing, but diplomatically, that first step of saying we would like the U.S. to help us out here, they don't expect that to happen. They are more than adequate, they believe, in terms of their own resources. So we don't expect that request to be made.
As you mentioned, Margaret, it's really important to point out that we still at this point don't know who's responsible. We know we have 2 gunmen who are out on the run, but one of the reasons a lot of people are pointing to ISIS and to potential militants from that region is really this video where we see one of the men shouting out Allah as the 4 shots are ringing out. Based on your, I guess, knowledge of how situations like this unfold, how will they go about trying to link this to a specific group? Is there a way? Is it done along political lines? Is this more work that's going to be done on sort of the recon of the United States end? Or France's end, rather.
Well, shouting out the name of God and then killing people isn't necessarily evidence, but it certainly suggests that whoever carried this out believes that they're doing so with some sort of ideological motivation. When it comes to the investigative work, it'll be, the camera footage, it'll be the eyewitness accounts there in terms of pointing a finger towards who perpetrated this. But we have seen in recent days videos released by ISIS calling for attacks in France, but you've seen those for months. So it's really hard to establish a direct link without that intelligence. And we've seen reports here from U.S. officials that they are looking very carefully at ISIS here rather than al-Qaeda more broadly.
And Margaret, as you were speaking, we just now received a statement. This is a written statement from President Obama condemning what he called the horrific shooting at the offices of Charlie Hebdo magazine in Paris that has reportedly killed 12 people. The statement goes on to say, our thoughts and prayers are with the victims of this terrorist attack and the people of France at this difficult time. France is America's oldest ally and has stood shoulder to shoulder with the United States in the fight against terrorists who threaten our shared security and the world. And the statement goes on to say that we are in touch with French officials, and I have directed my administration to provide any assistance needed to help bring these terrorists to justice. That statement just released from the White House.
That's right. And Press Secretary Josh Ernst has said throughout the day U.S. officials have been in close contact to assist the French in the wake of this bloody attack. In terms of a timeline, this happened just before noon in Paris, which is about 6 a.m. Eastern time here in New York. So again, Again, both presidents are sort of having that dialogue that needs to happen right now. And of course, we also know that at 2 p.m. we'll be hearing from French President Hollande, as we've been hearing from all of our experts, including Mark Phillips, who I believe is still standing by. Mark, if you are, we heard from Margaret what she thinks will happen in terms of the diplomatic approach the president will have to take. In terms of just quelling the fears right now that these two gunmen are out and there's a real possibility that there could be a copycat attack, what do you expect him to say to the people?
We're looking for some sort of assurance, and that's a difficult thing to deliver while these two gunmen, we think there were just two, the video shows just two so far, are still at large and still presumably armed. This is precisely the problem. There's been no claim of responsibility for this attack. There are quotes circulating both on social media and being reported from eyewitnesses saying that the two gunmen shouted, Allahu Akbar, God is great, and also shouted, we have avenged the Prophet, presumably this being a reference to what they took to be the blasphemous cartoons that were published by the magazine Charlie Hebdo, which was attacked today. And there's another quote circulating as well, a French reporter saying he spoke to an eyewitness. I'll caution this because a lot of quotes circulate at times like this that aren't locked down, saying that the gunmen spoke fluent French and said that they were from, quote, Al-Qaeda in Yemen. But that isn't confirmed that, and I think we should treat that cautiously. But what will they be looking for from the president, the French tonight? Obviously, some sense of assurance that
Mark,
precautions are being taken
apologies to interrupt,
in the future.
Mark. We want to go to the French Interior Minister who is speaking now. Let's take a listen.